There?
I got it recording this time.
No, man, you good?
All right, so kind of started back, man. Had the pleasure of actually being connected by a friend, co-worker, to Coach Long, and it just so happens the interesting part, we ain't even got into this, is that you might got some history on me playing the game of basketball at Austin Peay. Is that right?
A little bit. You played. you played during a time with one of my the other assistants I work with.
Okay.
We actually played Austin Peay twice when I was down there at Chattanooga. As a matter of fact, I think it was my sophomore year and junior year. And there was some good players come out of there too. I think it was a big Slater who was hitting all types of shots on us. He was really good, man.
Zach Slater.
Yes, sir.
Yep. When
yes,
I was a senior, he was a freshman.
Really?
Yes. So I remember, yeah. So I remember him, and so you know Coach Kane, huh?
I do know Coach Kane. Matter of fact, he's in the other office right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I was fortunate, man. I'm on a staff where a lot of the people I knew previous to this or played against in college or recruited me. I mean, Coach McMahon, who's here, he recruited me a little bit out of high school. He was at Appalachian State, so I've been fortunate.
Wow. So kind of getting back into it, and then we got everything going. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you got some good stats, and you were very sacrificial, and you kept your family in mind when you made the decision to commit to the game of basketball. Kind of go into detail with that, if you can, please.
Yeah. Again, I'm from Louisiana. It's funny. I finished the state championship game in Louisiana. Played against, a really good player, Chris Duhan, and a long time ago, and played against him. Finished the state championship. We lost in the state championship. I moved to North Carolina to spend my last 3 years there because my father was in the military. And it just helped perspective because, I went from one place that I was really tied to, grew up in, had relationships in, and had to move to another case and build them all over. So high school immediately taught me about, how to mature in a situation, how to build relationships, and, how to navigate through a lot of different stuff that's going on. So I got recruited by a few schools, ended up deciding Chattanooga. I get to Chattanooga in August, and my assistant coach who did the main recruiting leaves in September. We played a year out. My head coach, who I originally signed with, he leaves at the end of my freshman year. And so then one of my assistants get promoted, and it was the best thing for me because we've developed a great relationship. He was always brutally honest with me, especially as a player. One of the things he told me immediately when he got the job is saying, hey, I know you're the point guard last year. We're going to bring in some new guys, and, we might move you to a different position. Just wanted to know if that would be okay with you. He was honest. And I had a conversation, said, Coach, I think I'm a point guard, so let me work for it, and we'll see what happens. I'll do whatever I have to do for the team, but let me work for it. And I ended up, again, from my freshman year to second semester for the rest of my career, I started at the point guard position. And, that helped me along with coaching because I developed a really personal relationship with my head coach and nurtured that relationship. And then he was able to give me opportunity to coach basketball and start my career in college coaching.
Wow. So how did that transition go, Coach, when you were like, when you heard that last buzzer till were you on an official roster as far as a coach, or how did that come?
When that last buzzer went off, I was graduating from college. I had a lot of overseas opportunities to play. But I didn't want to do it. I wanted to coach basketball. So, it's funny. My coach actually asked me, like, hey, do you want to be a graduate assistant? I said, well, Coach, with all due respect, I appreciate the opportunity, but I got to make money. I mean, my family, I had two sisters who were getting ready to go. One was in college. One was getting ready to start college. I didn't want to have to depend on my family nor stress my mom and dad as far as financial means. So I went and got me a job. And when I got that job, I knew I wanted to coach, so I had to make some certain sacrifices in my life to be able to get myself ready for whatever opportunity would come in the future. So what I did was I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, And with that, after I got off work, I would go volunteer as a JUCO coach at Chattanooga Community College with Coach Jay Price, who's still there, as a matter of fact. And he had been through it all. I mean, he was a player at Tennessee. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was a great player. And he was from Chattanooga, and he was building that program to be one of the best junior colleges in the region. So it was good to come and learn from that experience what he was doing. And then on the flip side of it, I was still coming around Chattanooga to learn from the coaches who coached me to learn the other side of the game. And so I did that for a few years. I was part of, the YMCA in which I joined. It was coaching youth and training individual kids. I did that for a few years. And then Coach Schulman gave me an opportunity one day and said, hey, I want to get you back in college coaching. At the time, I knew nothing about the coaching side of it. So I was just like, okay, coach, I'll do it. The salary wasn't the same what I was making at Enterprise, but at the same time, it was an opportunity to do what I love. And when I got there, I realized I knew absolutely nothing about the coaching side of it, and I needed to learn on the fly. But then I also realized how difficult it was to have that job. And so over the years, I started to appreciate it more. But at the time, I didn't know what I was getting to. So it was a lot of learning on the job, trial by fire, but it helped me become a better coach than I am today.
Wow. Impressive, man. So, Coach, man, besides the 1,000 points, 450 boards, 350 dimes. I found that somewhere. I ain't gonna get into all that. What's some of your best accomplishments from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective?
From a player's perspective, it was going to the NCAA tournament my sophomore year. And the reason that was important and probably one of the most memorable moments from college was because that team was the team that essentially was there as my freshman year. And then when the coach left, the assistant coach who got promoted had a different style of play that he wanted to do. I originally went in there for offensive coach. He was more defensive minded. So with that defensive minded, a lot of our games, we went from averaging probably 85 points a game to about 60. But we took pride in holding our teams under a certain point total. So for us at that time, we rallied around each other because we were doing something different that wasn't seen at the time at the school at Chattanooga. So when we made it to the tournament, for us, it was, vindication that we can win the way we wanted to win. And it was our coach's first year. And it was, kind of establishing that, hey, man, no matter what happens, like, we can make our mark on the university with the team that we have, and we're going to do it in an unconventional manner. So for that, as a player, that was the most important thing and probably the greatest accomplishment, to just being a part of that team's and its success. As a coach, man, I've had a lot of highs. I'll be honest with you, Mom. I would say that the greatest accomplishment as a coach would, honestly, and it might sound cliche, is just seeing these seniors graduate and leave their career. Because for me, you're as a coach, it's not about you anymore. It's about the players that you're inspiring, and you're trying to install a lot of thoughts into and dreams into for them to live their life, because we've done ours as players. And so for every group of seniors that have graduated, that A, begin to start their family, B, begin to start their career, C, be able to live the life they want to do, just to see them mature and get through that process, that every year that's a reoccurring greatest accomplishment for me, because you see the start, you see where it begins, you see how the food is laid out, but then to watch the process of it getting cooked and then see it served, and to see how they mature to be from young man to grown man, it's inspiring, and it drives me to keep coaching every day.
Great metaphor. You see the ingredients, but then you see the cooking aspect, and it makes you value it more.
Yeah.
That's impressive, man. So, Coach, let me ask you, man, have you had how long you been in Murray State?
This will be my fourth season coming up.
Got you. Any players you'd be like, man, I saw him, he's producing on the floor. Will he still playing? Any players go pro?
Yeah, we had a good player here, Jai Morant, when he was here during his time. and there's a lot of things everybody says about him. There's a lot of stories out there about him. But the one thing I can tell you about him was his humility. He came in and he was the most humble kid that you ever coached.
Really?
He was talented, extremely talented, but he lived in the gym working on his game. He lived in the film room getting himself better. And probably most importantly, the best thing he did was he was one of the guys that you could put in the middle of the crowd on the team, and he was going to bring everybody closer together, on and off the court. They just loved and gravitated to him. You know, his teammates were really close to him before all the media buzz came. You know, the day he stepped foot on campus, everybody wanted to be around him. And he helped build a culture with our program that you can't replace, you know, him and a lot of other players. But his impact on the team on the court was great. Obviously, everybody knows that. But his impact on the team off the court helped build something special here. And, you know, it's a rarity that you see a kid that talented, that humble. And, you know, he's the same person today as he was when he stepped on campus. The same exact person. You could talk to him every day the same. You know, he's the same kid that if he has a bad game, he's going to ask you how I played. If he had a good game, he ain't going to be too high on it. It's incredible to see. But it's inspiring as well because it helps you understand that every kid that you want to play at that level, they can follow his path because he didn't do it a different way. He came to a school that fit his university. He came to a school that fit him. And he also came to a school where he had an opportunity to impact the program. And he made the most of his opportunity.
Wow. And since we're there, Coach, we jumping ahead, but hey, this the questions just give us a framework. So not to get in your scheme or anything like that until y'all vault. But as far as, you know, to be a player at Murray State, what is it if you're like that's a racer right there? Oh no, that can't be a racer. What are the things besides being a good fit that you see, but like, that's a characteristic, that's a trait?
Probably the main thing that we look at first before anything is humility. You know, interaction with your teammate on the sideline, interaction on the court. You know, obviously, I think the baseline for everything is you got to be talented. You know, every school recruits talented kids. It's just kind of what it is. So, you know, whether you're a point guard and your ball handling ability and your communication, whether you're on the wing, can you shoot it? Can you guard? Can you guard multiple positions? If you're a big man, can you rebound? Do you play as hard as you possibly can, running rim to rim? Those are some of the intangibles that obviously you can break down and see different things. But the first thing we look for is your humility. Because, again, you're coming to be a part of something that's bigger than you. And you're also, when you come here, you represent the name on the back of the jersey just as well as the name on the front of the jersey. So we want you to know the importance of that and how you interact on and off the court when we're watching you in the gym, talking on the phone with you, spending time getting to know you. That's a big deal. I would say, you know, obviously the second thing is you got to be talented, you know, and a lot of those attributes that I named before. And I think really the third thing, you know, that's important to us is, do you want to be part of something greater than yourself? Because, again, it's not going to be easy anywhere you go to school at. But a lot of people get somewhere, it gets hard, and they be like, you know what, it's not for me. I want to go somewhere else and try it out. You know, what's your stick-to-itiveness through the process when things get rocky? We evaluate all of that. And then, you know, probably something that's just as important that a lot of people don't talk about, it's a big deal, social media. You know, because social media right now, you know, can either brand you to be a really, really important person, not only in your community, but across the globe, as you can see with different people and different players, or it can hurt your recruitment because you're putting stuff out there that not necessarily represents you, but it can be perceived as that's some of the thought process you have. And for us, you know, we look at that stuff. It's important, you know, because, again, everybody represents something bigger than themselves. And social media gives you a depiction into that person's life, their thought process, and some of the stuff they represent, whether it's true or not true. So how you represent yourself on there is what the universities are signing, you know, because, again, college basketball, college football, collegiate sports, you are on a national stage now. Everybody is going to see you. So if you have a good game, the first thing they're going to want to do is get to know you as a person. And your social media can impact that. So we look at all of that stuff. And again, it doesn't necessarily hurt some kids just aren't informed. So you have that conversation with them. But yeah, it can help or hurt you in the process for sure.
And I'm glad you tapped on that. So let me ask you this, Coach. Has it ever been a situation where you or anybody on the staff you've been affiliated with, see a kid, let's just say two kids that you're actually recruiting, and and one of the criteria I'm assuming that you have is social media. Let's just say one kid, he appears to be a model citizen, philanthropist in the making. Then you have this one kid who you can tell he parties. You tell sometimes he makes bad decisions. Will that influence or impact that kid being recruitable?
I think it depends on your conversations with them, because again, you everybody's been a kid before, so you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what's affecting your recruitment or could possibly affect your recruitment, you need someone to talk to you about it. So for us, we don't hold a kid accountable necessarily to what they do and don't do on social media, but we do like to get to know them, because our process isn't, hey, we talked to you last week and we want to sign you this week. You got to build a relationship with them, because whether he goes to Murray State or goes somewhere else, you want a tangible relationship to say, hey, you know what? I not only impacted that kid's life, but if he comes here, he can impact our program. So you've got to do a lot of fact finding. And so for the two situations, visuals could matter, but I think it's a lot of the dialogue that you have with the kid, the family, the people surrounding him, because again, you get to know somebody. The kid that parties, he could be putting that out there, but he might not necessarily be the person that is a party type. He probably could be a different person, but living different on social media. You don't know that. So what we try to do is find out about it. Just like the kid who's doing everything and has the appearance of doing stuff the best way, you don't know necessarily everything about that kid. He could be great. He could not be great. But at the end of the day, our job as coaches is to fact find that stuff, and then how they handle the information when we give it to them, or how they handle the information when they have it that could potentially help or hurt their recruiting process. Then we sit back, evaluate, and then make the best decision for us. But, I think learning as a coach is something that we try to do every day. And I think kids being more informed during the recruiting process of things that can help them, I think that's just as important as well. And I think it's our job to find that out for them and help them with it.
Very important. Coach, let me ask you this. So how does parents and family come into the recruiting process? How do you?
They're huge. They're huge because, again, you're building a relationship with that kid, but you're also building a relationship with that family. And it's going to be a lifelong relationship. The kid comes here to play basketball, but the parents are coming here to watch him play, which means you're going to have more dialogue than just on the court playing for 40 minutes. You're going to have more dialogue off the court, and you're going to get to know people on personal levels to know about the kid's academic situation, the relationship to help the kid, what can we do to better suit the family, to better help the child reach his maximum potential. You're going to learn all that, so you're going to have a lot of dialogue. So for us, it's important to have that relationship with the family or surrounding circle, because at the end of the day, they're just as important to the kid's success as the kid's doing what he's supposed to do on the court. It's the same thing. It all works the same. And it's important for us because we're a big family-oriented program. We're very inclusive. So once you're a part of it, you're a part of it. I'll call my parents just as happy for them as their 20-point game as a kid getting an A on a test that he hadn't done. All that stuff is important to us. And so we want the parents just as excited for the kid's success as well. So it's extremely important in the process of having the whole family involved, mentors, the school that he attends, everything that can help the kid and that's important to that kid. We try to make sure we tap into that market.
So let me ask you this, Coach. Has it been a situation, because I don't know how it is where you are, but I know in Dallas-Fort Worth, parents are very passionate. And let me just say, they're very invested and passionate about certain aspects of the game. So can you touch on any experience like that you've experienced?
I mean, I've And I think this is my 9th or 10th year coaching right now, and I've dealt with a lot. Um, the one thing I'll say throughout all this, especially when parents, that's a great word, passionate about their kid and their success of that kid. The one thing about it is just trusting how to get there, because again, I wanted Ja to be successful just as much as his parents did. But what his parents did a great job of for us is they let us coach him. They didn't get involved. They just said, hey, you guys are the coaches. You guys know what helps him be the best player he can. We're going to entrust you because we trusted him to come to Murray State, and you guys got him. And the only conversations we had was, hey, is he doing anything off the court? Which was always a no. And, how can we better help you guys? That was it. That was the only conversation that we've had. And so they helped us tremendously. So the one thing I've always said, especially about passionate parents is, they want the same thing that we want. It's just about how we reach a common goal to get there. And there has to be, and this is what goes back to the recruiting process, it has to be a level of trust. Because if, just like anything else, if you start a job and I don't trust you, I don't trust you, and somebody else is speaking for you, it's never going to work out the same, because it's always going to be combative, because my voice doesn't matter as much as the outside factors. So when it gets to coaching, the one thing that we try to do is develop a level of trust that we're not doing anything to put him back. We're doing everything in our power to prop him up, but there's a process that goes along with that. And it's just educating them on the process and building that level of trust that they have between us and them as well.
So, Coach, let me ask you this. Have you been in a situation where you interview the parent, let's just say you do a home visit, or you're in a setting where the parent and the child are there, and you asking questions, you're getting intimate information, getting to know the child, just getting intimate with them, professional level, and the parent is doing more talking. Has that ever been experienced where it's more of the parent communicating more than you like than the kid?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen that a lot, actually. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I've seen it a lot where parents are communicating for the child, some of their wants and concerns they have as well, which is fair, because at the end of the day, again, I got 2 girls. I mean, I want the best for my girls, and I invest the most time in them. So sometimes I feel like I have to speak for them, and I get it. Parents, that's the child that they invested deep most time in, drove him anywhere they needed to be, took care of him off the court, all that stuff. So it's understandable. Now, once that happens, that's where I think the door opens to where it has to be a two-way street, because after you have to listen. And sometimes what they're saying is just the passion that they have for that child in the best form. The flip side of it is, as a coach, we go visit and do home visits, and we're not coming down there if we don't want them. We coming down there because obviously that child and that family is important to us. So they also have to listen to us as well. And that's where the dialogue has to be, because at the end of the day, whenever a college decision is made, that child is going off to college in which he's leaving the nest. So you have to trust that the foundation not only was laid there, but you have to trust that there's a new foundation that we're going to try to impress upon them, and also help build on what the parents have created back at the house. The trust is always going to be a big deal, because again, if the parents don't trust the coach and him and them helping the kid, it won't work. It's impossible. It can't work, because there is no dialogue that helps the situation. It's more so combative. But if you build that trust relationship, and then again, you got to find out the questions they may have, the concerns they may have. And as a coach, it's my job to be sure that I answer those and respect their wishes and their feelings throughout the whole process as well.
Yep, it makes sense. It makes sense, and I just want really parents to really pay attention to this, because it's time to let go. You've done, and I think a lot of times parents are just so fearful. No, but this is actually why you raised them. This is why you could set that platform, and it's okay, because what the last thing a parent wants to do is take something from their child they both of them have worked hard for, because it can be negatively impacted.
I mean, it to me, and again, my perspective changed a lot when I had kids, because when I first started recruiting, I looked at it from the coaching side, like, man, I'm providing a kid opportunity, why can't we get him? Why doesn't he see the opportunity he has? Why doesn't the family see what he has? And then when got married, had children, the flip side happened. It's like, hey, there's a lot of time invested in that kid. There's a lot of trust factor that you not only trust in on the court, but off the court. And to develop that trust, the parents are releasing them, like you said, to let go. They got to let go. But in that letting go, they have to know what they're letting them go to. And I think a lot of that gets lost sometimes is, as a coach, I have to think about both perspectives. I want to be just as successful. I want our program to be just as successful because I'm part of a great staff and an unbelievable team of players as well. But with that, there has to be understanding that they come from different backgrounds. And so when that kid comes here, it's not only trusting that, hey, we're going to win a lot of games, we're going to play basketball, he's going to play. He's got to, most of the time, he's going to spend it with his college teammates. Yeah. So I got to trust that, hey, they have to trust as well that not only are we taking that kid, we're putting him in the best situation for him to grow as a man. And I think it all goes back to, again, the communication and process. I think a big deal for me and our program that we run into a lot is, making sure that the kids informed, because a lot of kids aren't informed. They look at the university they go to and be like, man, it's a really good university. It's the biggest school I can possibly go to. It's got to be nice. It's got to work out. And you see all the glitz and glamour. But a lot of questions aren't asked about the day-to-day life in a college basketball or college athlete's life. And at the end of the day, you want someone to be happy of the situation. They'd be excited about the situation, be passionate about the situation they're in. And not just go to a school because it's the biggest school possible, because you won't grow on and off the court as a person if you're just going there for the X's and the O's. It's going to take more than that. You want to go somewhere where when you leave that school, not only have you impacted the community, you've become the best person that you can possibly be. And I think that's where parents have to trust us, but I think that's where the dialogue needs to come in between college coaches and also parental figures.
Absolutely, Coach. And that's one of the things is everybody has to be on the same page, and it's like passing the baton. Hey, I'm passing you the baton. Don't drop it. Okay, I'm looking at you, eye contact, understanding. You got the grasp. Good. I'm going to enjoy going to the next stage. And I think that's very important. So let me ask you this, since we are already progressing and segueing going that way with it. So what is the daily activity? What's the daily agenda? Because some kids don't know. They think, man, I'm just going to go hoop.
It's definitely a process to be a good player, because you're managing two different things. You're managing the academics and the basketball. And for a third, you're managing the social aspect of it. So what happens is, for kids, they wake up in the morning, they'll go to breakfast with their team. Every university does it different. But, for the most part, people do team breakfasts as one, so they can get their day started off, start communicating, get a good meal in them. Then they go to class. In between classes, some guys do individual workouts, some guys don't. Some people do weights in the morning before breakfast, 6, 7 o'clock, depending on different places. Some players do it after their first set of classes. But typically, you either start your day at 8, breakfast, classes, then you have, whether strength training or workouts. As you get further along in the year, you have practices. And typically, after you do all that, you're looking at going home maybe about 6 o'clock after treatment, basketball, the whole nine. Then you got to do your schoolwork, the homework that you may have. You may have study hall built in there sometime during the day. Some people have it at night. So for a typical college athlete, your day is jam-packed. I don't care where you go for that. It's because you're going to have to eat, you're going to have to go to class, and you're going to have to work on your game. And you're going to have to do homework, that's given by the professors. So it's a jam-packed schedule. And, in the midst of all that, you might want to build relationships with your teammates. You might want to get to know people on campus so you can kind of navigate yourself around. So that's the social aspect that you're getting involved in. So it's a jam-packed day. It's not something that's, overly stressful if you manage it. And for us, that's where I think, we do a good job as a staff is what we try to help kids do is manage their day. We have schedules. Every player comes to us. We have a different coach that coaches that player. We have academic groups where, 3 or 4 people are assigned to a player. And we just help dive into their day as coaches because, again, that could be overwhelming for some. You're coming from a high school schedule. Some people are on block, some people are on 7 period. And, their day is kind of like 7 period is boom, 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 straight through. And then you're done. Block, you go to class for an hour and a half, and your day could be over. Some cases at 12 or 1, and it's over. And then you got practice and stuff, you go home and manage. Some kids like myself, I had to work in high school. So when I got out of practice, I went to work. So there's a lot of different aspects that you're trying to help kids understand. And so sometimes the most important thing you can do as a coach is just help them manage it. Because, you can never take for granted that a kid should understand what you tell them verbally. You got to factor in whatever is going on in their day. That sometimes they might slip their memory. Why? Because they got a lot on their plate. And so we do a good job, I feel, as a staff. We try to help them manage their day to end it the most positive way and begin it the most positive way with the least amount of stress as possible.
Good. So, Coach, man, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit about when you first got into coaching. I ain't gonna just glaze over there like I learned a lot about the business. I'm coming back to that now. We're gonna come back to that. So
all good.
We're gonna expand it just a little bit. So, what's some of the pitfalls or the negative aspect? Let's just say pitfalls from a coach's perspective in that business, as well as what you've seen on the coach and the players' perspective.
I guess I'll start with players first. Mm-hmm. Some of the pitfalls you see with players is learning to workload management, being able to sacrifice some of the stuff they want to do for some of the stuff they have to do. It's important that you work on your game in college. It's important that you get your jumpers up and your threes up and your ball handling and your defensive ability, your conditioning, your body to be the best player you want to be. Because in the NBA, they manage all that. Those players, that's what their job is to do, is to manage all of that. So in college, it is hard for some players to understand that this is the sacrifice I have to make to be the best player, because they were the best player doing it their way when they came out of high school. And it's harder in college. Some players in college see success early and never expound on it, because they had early success. So I think for players is understanding, it's a process, and you can never, ever, ever cheat the process. When you know what you got to do, you never try to cut corners to get there, because at the end of the day, your ultimate goal is to, as a player, if you have professional aspirations, your ultimate goal is to be in the NBA. If you want to be in the NBA, those guys take care of their bodies. Those guys are doing everything they can to be the best player they can be, because they have to feed their families. And so we try to teach them that. And I think that's something sometimes players don't see. As a coach, I think, one of the pitfalls, and I'll speak personally, one of the pitfalls is understanding that you're on borrowed time. Because as a coach, you look at success and you be like, man, I'm successful. And that's all that matters. And you got to understand, like, you're with a team. And, I've always been selfless. I always wanted to be a team player. That's why I love coaching, because I can be a part of a staff, which is our team in our own right. But understanding you're on borrowed time, because you can have as much success as you possibly can. And, 1 or 2 bad seasons, and it's over. Everything you dream, hope for, and you wish for is over. So understanding not only you're on borrowed time, you got to maximize the time that you have, and you got to really, really dive in to make the most of the situation you have. And that situation is the best situation. Like, I love Murray State, and it isn't because of the success we had. I love Murray State because of the people around it, the team I'm on, and the staff I'm on. But I don't take it for granted one day that, I could be gone from Murray State without success. So I try to grind and make sure that I'm doing everything I can, not only to help my team, to help myself get better, in which it helps the team as well.
Absolutely. You know, Coach, I look at it. I have a saying. I said, I'm gonna honor my craft.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna honor my craft, man, and to tap into some you alluded to with players. You know, players, you got to be dedicated. You got to be dedicated. And it's so hard work, but you know, sometimes what they think being in the gym for 3 hours. What did you do in those 3 hours?
No, you're spot on there, because I can. It's right, man. Because you can live in the gym for 5-6 hours, staying there all day. But if you're not doing what you need to do in those 5 or 6 hours, it won't make a difference. You know, it's funny. Like, you read the USA basketball stories about Kobe getting to the gym at 4 a.m. You know, the Jimmy Butler story, when he got to Miami, he got there at 4 a.m. because he wanted to be there before everybody else got there and already have worked to then get to practice. They love it. You can tell they're dedicated to it. And, you know, again, I understand as a coach now, because I played, I understand that there's a lot of other stuff going on in a typical college athlete's life, from basketball to books to hanging out with his friends. Some of them like to play video games. It's a lot of stuff that they're managing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it goes back to what I said before. You got to manage that time, because when you come to the gym for those 2 hours or 3 hours or however long you want to spend in there, some players like to come back at night and get a second or third workout in. You got to maximize your time, because that time is valuable. So, you know, for example, if a player needs to get better on his ball handling, if you're not leaving the gym in a full-blown sweat,
come on now, come on, preach now,
and working to your forms burn, you know, if you never got, the best word, if you never got uncomfortable, ever, you know, I don't know if that's real work, because at the end of the day, you got to make mistakes when nobody's around to be able to perform when there's a crowd around. You have to make mistakes. If you fear mistakes and so you try to play it safe in the gym to do what you can do to look good for others, well, that's fine, but it's going to get exposed, because you don't know what the other team is doing when they're game planning for you in college, especially when they're specifically game planning to take away the one thing you do well. So you got to work. And, you know, I think it's what you said. It's what you're doing in the gym during that time to maximize your talents and make yourself the best player you possibly can be. And so I think that's, again, it goes back to, as coaches, that's our job, to help guide them, because there's a lot of great high school coaches, a lot of great skills trainers out there, a lot of great mentors that's telling them that. And, you know, once they get here, they got to hear the same message, because, again, it affects their day-to-day and affects their playing time and affects ultimately their ability to play professionally.
You know, yeah, you got to have it, man. You got to have that dog, man, because, you know, Bean played 20 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, I somewhat consider myself a low-end basketball historian. But I could be wrong, but correct me if I am. I'm good with it. Ain't Kobe Bryant the only one who his last game in the NBA scored 60?
Yeah, that was impressive, too. That was impressive.
Bean.
But you know what, man, it's like, you know, you learn as a coach. You know, you never have all the right answers. No coach does, you know, but you just learn from his work ethic. And you can tell in every interview, everything he did in his life, that he worked for it. You know, one of the things I admired about Kobe is he knew multiple languages. You know, he could speak different languages to different people. Well, that's something you learn, and it took time. And on a grander scale, he learned that while he was perfecting his craft. So, you know, he had to learn the playbook, learn how to be a better player. And then in his off time, he had to learn a different language. And so it took sacrifice. And you know, it seems like it's redundant, but the things that all hard work, motivation, sacrifice, you can't maximize your talent as a player without doing those things, because the best do it. And if the best do it, there's no way you're going to cheat your process. If the best do it, you have to do what the best do and then raise the level. Because what some players don't understand is Ja was fortunate because he has some God-given athleticism that you just can't teach, right? But he also knew that. And so he knew not only he needed to, get better at ball handling in different aspects, he wanted to be the best player in the world. So he had to get better at decision making. Guess what that means? That means, do I go and play video games, or do I just hang out and sit down and chill with everybody outside? Or do I come in the office and learn, watch film and learn and get better? And yes, I might be sacrificing in a temporary, but it's for the greater good. He understood that. And so now he was able to reach his end goal at a faster pace than maybe he even thought coming into the process. Because, obviously, to me, I'm going to always say he's the best player, point guard in the NBA and things like that. I'm always going to say that. There's not going to be any doubts about it. But I watched the work and the sacrifice he put in. And I think a lot of kids today think that, I can let this go and I'll make up for it later. That day is gone. You don't get that day back. And somebody else, what we were told as kids, and, somebody else is working on that day to reach their goal. So what's a little sacrifice right now for you to reach your end goal? And I'm not saying, cancel your life for basketball. I'm never going to tell somebody to do that. But it's about managing what's important to you as well. Might have to get up a little bit earlier rather than sleeping in. Might have to go to bed on time so you have energy for the day. It's a lot of other things that go into it.
Man, Coach, if I can call you preaching. You doing some preaching now. Because and I'm glad that and I'm actually gonna post this on our page, man, because I think everybody sees how Ja is now, but we were talking to somebody who saw Ja when he first got to school. You know what I'm saying? And to hear the dedication, the sacrifice, the choices. Because to me, what I'm hearing is Ja believed in that loan money. He didn't like instant gratification.
No, he it's funny because we had a lot of good, he learned, and I'll tell this story. Like, he came in at a time when we had a point guard here, Jonathan Stark, who, when Ja's freshman year, he was the player of the year. He came off a junior year where he averaged 22 a game. And his senior year, he was primed to be player of the year, and he was the point guard of a team. He saw Ja play, and he said, Coach, I'll move off the ball, but I think that kid's good enough to start at the point. Well, by him sacrificing, again, he's one of the most unselfish people I've ever met in Jonathan Stark. For him to sacrifice his potential all-conference deal, player of the year deal, everything else, because he saw how good Ja can make the team. Ja had a good mentor that helped him do that. But Ja was open to receiving the information. And that's the thing that a lot of, I think, kids don't understand. You got to be a sponge. You got to be willing that if somebody's telling you you're not maximizing your game, or you can do better, or you're doing a good job, and these are some of the things you can improve on and off the court, you can't take it and be combative with it and fight the information and be on the defense about it. You got to be a sponge. Well, Ja was a sponge with him. So as Stark was having a great senior year, he was still giving Ja little nuggets here and there, not only how to lead the team, but how to be the best player he can be. And he soaked that in. So then when his sophomore year came, the talent, the work part was all fine. He was ready to lead a team and keep the team together because he had learned from a previous senior. And so I think the big thing that gets lost without the process of in the whole Ja thing is the fact that he just wasn't a great player. And every time I have opportunity to speak on a platform about it, I try to let everybody know it wasn't just him being a great player. It was him being a great person, a humble person, a person that brings people together. Because at the end of the day, one person is never going to win a game. You're going to need all five. And he had a way of getting to all five players on the team in a way that they understood it without yelling and screaming and doing all this other stuff. He built the relationship off the court. He put in that time. He deposited more and more money into the piggy bank of relationships over and over. So when it became time to withdraw from that bank, when he had to push a guy, they trusted him. Why? Because they knew he fed the relationship. And I think that's one thing it gets lost in the process, not just him, with anybody, is, to build trust within the team, you got to spend time. And they have to see that, hey, your words and your actions match, most importantly.
equity.
Absolutely.
Equity. He had and that's one of the things that, it's good to hear that, because a lot of times we don't know unless we don't know unless we talk to the farmer that actually put some of the seeds at the ground level before it was actually a crop.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a saying, Coach, now, and my kids hate it. I don't care if they hate it. I said, I'll tell them. One time I came up with it, Coach. I said, man, stop playing 2K and be on 2K. And I was like what? Like, you over playing 2K, but did you know you can work hard to be on 2K?
Yeah. It's the dream, man. You got to dream.
Hold on. This is what I was going to say too, Coach. I researched Kobe, man. I studied him and everything. One thing Kobe said is, he said, you will never catch up to me. He said, because I think he was 18 when he came into the NBA. I think his parents had to sign his contract and those things. And he said, I got up every day 2 hours before workouts for practice. He said, let's just say we do that for a week. That's 10 hours a week. That's 40 hours a month. That's almost 500 hours a year. So if you do that 500 hours a year, and you do that for 10 years, there's no way you're going to catch up with.
I mean, not only is there no way you're going to catch up, you also have a lot of self-improvement, because it becomes your nature. Mm-hmm. So you don't know how to function without doing it. And that's why I think it's important that a lot of people, again, reading is something for personal growth. I've been doing a lot during this time to build on, because, again, you learn a lot more within that book about certain stories and certain people and certain aspects. And the hours have to make sense, because if you're not seeing any results from what you're doing, typically people say, I'm going to do something else because I'm not seeing any results. I'm wasting my time, per se. And so the hours have to make sense. So it's important that when you go into the gym, you go into the gym with a goal of what you want to do to get better today. And it might not look great, but you got better, and going into the gym with a plan. Like a lot of the players in the professional leagues, they go in with every sport, they go in with a plan for the day, how they're going to attack the day. And we try to give our players a plan for the day of how you're going to attack the day. Yes, you're not going to get better at defense, ball handling, communication, shooting, layups, finishing through contact, knowing the plays. You can't do all of that in one day, but you can get 1% better. That's all you got to do is get 1% better. You can do that. And how do you get 1% better? And that's why I say you got to be open to receiving information. You got to be a sponge, because there's going to be a lot of information given. And some of it, players may like, a lot of it the players won't like. And that's fine. But you got to receive it. And then how do you get 1% better from it? Because if you do that and you continue to get 1% better every day, and you keep chopping the wood every day, eventually you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And that's how you got to build the time into doing that.
Man, Coach. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. If I've done several interviews with parents, kids, they really need to pay attention to this one, because they get a front row seat of the experience from Jai and what it looked like. I think sometimes we like the sweet taste of success, but we don't like the bitterness of the sweat.
Absolutely. You got to dream big. And when you dream big, that's okay. Like, that's okay to have goals of playing in the NBA. I know a lot of people say, the old adage of, hey, this percentage of players make it to the NBA and this percentage of players don't have the opportunity. And that's great. But that doesn't affect your dream. I think once you have that dream, now what are you doing to go fulfill it? Mm-hmm. I can want to be the head coach of the best university one day. But if I'm not doing what I can to be prepared for that job, I can't do it. So for players, if you want to be in the NBA, information during this age is right at their fingertips. All you got to do is Google, get on Twitter, Instagram, Wikipedia. You can do anything you want to get the information that you need to be the best player you can. Now, what do you do when you receive it? and the time, you said like the equity. What are you doing to put yourself in a position to do the best you possibly can? And I think it's what you do with the information. And I think, again, the great players always do what they got to do. The great players don't make excuses. They produce results. They just figure it out. And the players that's always borderline or have a drop-off, they always have a reason why it didn't happen. And, at the end of the day, nobody really cares about the why. They expect you to get it done. So be a sponge, receive information, and then maximize it.
Absolutely, Coach. So, man, tell me, what I'm hearing, Coach, man, is that you blessed and favored. Am I accurate in that?
Highly blessed, highly favored.
Come on now.
Highly. Because again, I've been no different from anybody else. I've been in situations in which, it might have not been great. I've been, my first year I got into coaching, since I'll go ahead and tell my story. My first year I got into coaching, I coached with the coach who I played for, and he got me into the business. And that year, the school decided they wanted to go a different direction. And so I went from leaving a stable job I worked to going to the college coaching to not having a job after my first year of college coaching. And so, a lot of prayers, a lot of relationship building, and just honestly, a lot of trust in the process. So I was fortunate enough to stay on with the next staff that came to Chattanooga. And we had a lot of success there. Then, I went to VCU. Again, another situation where we did great things there. Went to the tournament every year we were there, won a game in the tournament, our first year. And then, coaching transition happened. And there was nothing malicious about it. It was just coaching transition happened. Different things happen for different reasons. And now, again, I'm back looking for a job, again, praying, trusting the process, building relationships. And then I was fortunate enough to have opportunity to come to Murray State where I'm currently at. And, I take zero credit for a lot of the stuff I do. I just, I was extremely blessed because it could have been anybody. Any job I've had, anybody could have done it. Anybody in the world could have done it. But, I never took it for granted. And when I had the opportunity to do it, I tried to make the most of it and do everything, with a smile on my face. Because, again, I don't have to be at Murray State. Somebody else can be here. Somebody else will be here years from now. And so it's on me not only to make the most of my opportunity here, but not only share my journey with others to try to inspire them and help the kids that I can. Because, again, I don't have to be in a situation. I'm blessed to be in a situation.
Coach, and like I said, people ask me sometimes, like, he still sit on that throne. He still sit on that throne. He still sit on that throne. So part of me thinks that job might have learned some humility from you, or you had some.
I like to say he learned it from all of us, man. Because, again, our job, I think, as coaches, is to teach them every different aspect. 'Cause nobody has the same perspective on everything, but everybody has a perspective on it. So our job, I feel, is to share it, nurture it, teach it, and then hopefully the players learn enough from it that they can go and use it at some point in their life. And it might not be everything, but if they can take one nugget from you, we just try to hope for the best with that.
So, Coach, man, how do you balance? What's your work-life balance?
Well, I've had to learn to get that better, because at the end of the day, my wife, obviously, she wants me to spend more time there. And the kids, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. They love seeing daddy around. So for me, and it's just like other players with the schedule. For me, it's, I have to learn, and I'm improving on that, of when to put the phone down. There's certain moments in life that a phone doesn't need to be in your hand. That doesn't mean you're not working. There's 24 hours in a day. It's how you manage the hours. Just like the players got to manage their schedules, how I manage my hours and how we manage our hours. So my work-life balance has been a lot better because I'm fortunate to work with a great head coach in Matt McMahon. And the one thing he does, he believes in family through and through. our family, his family, the players' families, the players themselves. He believes in all that. So for us, he strives to make sure that work-life balance is a given, not something you want to do, something you have to do. And again, I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate and blessed to be in certain situations that I've been allowed to do so. So, there's definitely a time I go all in for basketball, but there might be an hour or two out the day that nobody can get me, and it's because my kids are just important as the players as well. My wife is just important as the players. My family is just important as the players.
Man, Coach, I appreciate it, man. You ever come to Dallas Fort Worth, man, and hit me up?
Yeah.
I enjoyed this one, man. And just connecting with you, and just I appreciate you for being transparent, and just giving our parents the opportunity to be poured into and to be educated.
No, man, I thank you for the opportunity to do it, because again, just to have a platform to speak on and share my journey, share my story, and share my thoughts, share Murray State's thoughts, and share a different perspective on things. I don't take it for granted, because again, the one thing I've learned through this time of this unfortunate pandemic that we're in is you got to get to know people, and you got to step out of your box a little bit, because everybody's going through different things. But if you can help people and have them help you in return, you've gotten a little bit better from this whole deal. And so I appreciate the time.
Appreciate it, Coach. If I'm ever in the area, I'll reach out to you. I'm sure Tim gonna tell you more stories.
No, yeah. As soon as we finish this call, I'm gonna go talk to him and say, hey, I talked to Bobby, man. What you got about him, man? Let me know. No, it's all good. It's all good. No, man, it's cool. It's cool.
Well, I appreciate it, man. You take care, Coach.
No, you do the same. I appreciate your time.
All right.
Take it easy.